Hi folks, it's JK here. Here on the banks of Loch Awe sits one of the most famous ruins in Scotland, Kilchurn Castle. Even on a cloudy morning like this, with the mist hanging over the hills, it still looks incredible. Kilchurn has been through clan rivalries, military campaigns, and centuries of neglect. And in the end, it wasn't war that brought it down, it was something much simpler. And I'll get to that part in a bit. The castle was first built in the mid-1400s by Sir Colin Campbell, the first Lord of Glenorchy. At the time, Scotland was a patchwork of clans and loyalties, and castles weren't just homes. They were their way of showing everyone who was in charge. For the Campbells, this place became the base of power in the Highlands. The first structure here was a tall tower house, strong, simple and built to last. Imagine rowing across the loch back then, looking up at the tower rising out of the water. The message was clear. The Campbells were here and they were a force to be reckoned with. But, like most castles, it didn't stay small for long. Over the next couple of centuries, Kilchurn was expanded. Courtyard walls went up, new halls and chambers were added, and slowly the place grew into a full-sized fortress. One of the biggest changes came in the late 1600s. By then, Scotland was facing a lot of unrest, with the Jacobite cause never far from the surface. The Campbells built one of the very first purpose-built barracks in Scotland, right here in Kilchurn. It could hold around 200 men, and that tells you how seriously they were thinking about defence at the time. This wasn't just a clan residence anymore, it was a military base. If you walk through the ruins today, you can still make out the barrack block. Standing in what used to be those long rooms, you get a sense of how many soldiers lived here. And if you send the drone up, the view makes perfect sense. Kilchurn sits on a natural crossroads with Loch Awe stretched now like a highway in both directions. But even the strongest castles don't last forever. By the early 1700s, the Campbells had shifted their focus further east, towards Perthshire. Kilchurn slowly slipped out of use. The barracks were abandoned, and the buildings started to fall into disrepair. And then came the moment I mentioned earlier. According to local tradition, in 1760, a storm rolled over Loch Awe, and a bolt of lightning struck the castle. It cracked the stone, weakened the walls, and left Kilchurn in ruins. So in the end, it wasn't an enemy army that destroyed the castle, it was the weather. From then on, the site was abandoned, no one lived here again, and the castle was left to rain, the wind, and the passing centuries. But strangely enough, that ruin is what gave Kilchurn its lasting fame. In the 18th and 19th centuries, artists and travellers were drawn here. They painted it, sketched it, and wrote about it. That romantic image of a broken castle, reflected in the still waters of Loch Awe, became one of the iconic pictures of Scotland. And honestly, it still is. Photographers travel here from all around the world to capture that shot. Walking around today, it's easy to see why. You can stand inside the remains of a tower house, climb where the barracks once stood, and look out over the loch just as the Campbells would have done hundreds of years ago. And from the air, you really see how well positioned it was. A fortress in the middle of the Highlands, perfectly placed to control water routes and the land around them. Kilchurn might be a ruin, but it hasn't been forgotten. 6 centuries ago, it was built as a symbol of power. Now it's one of the most photographed castles in the country. And maybe that's the lesson here. Castles don't just live on through stone walls. They live on through the stories we tell and the way we keep coming back to them, generation after generation. Kilchurn Castle, once the heart of Campbell power, now a reminder that even ruins can become icons. That's Kilchurn Castle here in Loch Awe, a ruin with centuries of history and still one of the most striking sights in Scotland. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.